Two families were on their knees with weapons to their heads. Not because anyone was breaking into a bank vault, because two bank employees were going to open it themselves the next morning, using their own codes, following proper procedures. £26.5 million, gone from one of the most secure vaults in the United Kingdom. No alarms, no forced entry, no masks. The vault was opened by the people authorized to open it, during normal business hours. It looked like the perfect inside job. Except those employees weren't thieves. They were hostages performing the roles of their lives. And when the biggest bank heist in British history needed someone to answer for it, they didn't go after the men who held the weapons. They went after the man who opened the vault. They took his family hostage. He emptied the vault. Then they came for him. The Northern Bank Heist, Belfast, 2004. It's a Sunday evening in West Belfast, late 2004. Chris Ward is sitting in his living room with his dad, his mom, his older brother, and his girlfriend. They're watching football. There is nothing remarkable about this night. That's the point. The ordinariness is everything, because in about 90 seconds, every person in that room will have a weapon pointed at them. A knock at the door. Chris opens it. A man stands on the doorstep, smiling, relaxed, friendly. "All right, Chris, I'm here to talk about Celtic Football Club, Chris's team. He's an active member of the supporters club. People show up at his door about tickets and events all the time. The man's tone is casual. His posture is easy. Everything about this says normal." Chris lets him in. What he doesn't see, what he misses in the half second between opening the door and stepping aside, are two more figures, standing just beyond the porch light, just out of sight. They follow the first man inside. The front door closes. Weapons come out, pointed at his family, at his mom, at his dad, at his brother, at his girlfriend. Every person Chris loves in the world is now staring down a barrel. The smiling man isn't smiling anymore. "Chris, we're not here to talk about football." 20 miles away, same evening, same hour. Kevin McMullen opens his front door. Kevin is a manager at Northern Bank, the same bank where Chris Ward works. Two men stand outside in police uniforms, official, grave. "Mr. McMullen, there's been a family accident. We need you to come with us to identify a body." Kevin's stomach drops. He steps outside. The moment the door shuts behind him, he feels it. Cold steel pressed against the back of his skull. There is no accident. There are no police. These men are wearing costumes. Two families, two bank employees, taken in coordinated strikes, 20 miles apart. Neither family knows the other exists. Neither hostage knows they're not alone in this. The Sunday evening is over. Something monstrous has begun. The families are separated. Wives, parents, girlfriends, held in one location. Chris and Kevin, held in another. This is deliberate. This is architecture. Because the gang doesn't need to hurt anyone. Not yet. They just need Chris and Kevin to not know where their families are, not know if they're alive, not know what's happening to them minute by minute. The silence does the work. Every hour without information is its own violence. Is my mom okay? Is Karen alive? Are they cold? Are they scared? The questions multiply in the dark, and there are no answers. Just men with weapons who offer nothing. Kevin McMullen's wife Karen is being held somewhere he cannot see, and the way she is being held makes the threat real in a way that words never could. Not restrained, not tied to a chair, held by the throat, a hand physically around her neck. The gang wants Kevin to understand something specific. They want him to understand exactly how close his wife is to dying. Not in the abstract, not as a threat on a phone call, in the flesh, skin on skin. Then the instructions come, simple, clinical. Tomorrow morning, you will go to work. You will arrive on time. You will badge in. You will say good morning to the security guard. You will smile at your coworkers. You will access the vault using your authorized credentials. You will load the cash into bags. You will hand it over. And if anyone, a colleague, a manager, a security guard, suspects for even a moment that something is wrong, your family dies. This isn't a bank heist, not really. This is something worse. Perform normalcy. Perform a regular Monday morning. Perform the role of a man who slept well and ate breakfast and is thinking about his weekend. Do it with your mother on her knees in a room you've never seen. Do it with your wife's life measured by a stranger's grip strength. The penalty for a bad performance isn't getting caught. The penalty is a phone call. And after the phone call, you will never see your family again. Chris Ward lies awake that night. Somewhere, his mom is in a room with armed men. In a few hours, he will walk into Northern Bank, look his colleagues in the eye, and empty the vault. He is 24 years old. Monday morning, December 20th, 2004. Belfast is cold. Christmas is 5 days away. Shoppers, commuters, traffic. The city is going about its business. Chris Ward walks toward Northern Bank. Think about that walk. Every step is a decision. Every step carries the weight of what he's about to do and why. His mom is in a room with weapons. His dad, his brother, his girlfriend. Somewhere, right now, they are alive. They will stay alive only if Chris does everything exactly right. He reaches the building, badges in, the security desk, the familiar lobby, the corridor. Morning, Chris. Morning. 2 words. The most important 2 words he has ever spoken, because they have to sound like every other Monday greeting he has ever given. Not too cheerful, not too flat, not rehearsed. Just normal, ordinary, forgettable. He keeps walking. Kevin McMullen is doing the same thing on his floor. A bank manager walking through the building he manages, smiling at staff he has known for years. The man responsible for operations, about to hollow those operations out from the inside. Both men carry the same impossible weight. They are not thieves. They are fathers and sons performing the most critical role of their lives. And the audience, every coworker, every security guard, every passing colleague, must never know they're watching a performance. The vault. Chris has the credentials. Kevin has the authority. Together, they have everything needed to access one of the most secure cash reserves in the United Kingdom. The system lets them in, because the system is designed to let them in. They are authorized personnel following authorized procedures at the authorized time. That's the sickening elegance of this crime. There is nothing to flag, no anomaly, no override, no alarm. The security infrastructure is functioning perfectly, and that is exactly the problem. The loading begins, bag after bag, cash in every denomination Northern Bank holds. The physical reality of £26.5 million is something most people never consider. The weight of it, the volume of it. This is not a briefcase and a getaway car. This is hours of methodical, terrifying labor. Stacking, loading, carrying. Chris moves through the building with bags of cash. He passes people he knows. He holds doors. He nods. Inside his chest, his heart is trying to crack his ribcage open. His face betrays nothing. The handoff happens. The money leaves the building, loaded into vehicles waiting exactly where they were told to wait. The coordination is seamless. No alarms, no chase, no confrontation. No movie moment where a heroic guard spots something wrong. Just 2 men walking out of a bank they walked into that morning, having done exactly what they were told. Here is the paradox that will define everything that comes after. This is simultaneously the largest bank heist in United Kingdom history and an act of desperate love. Chris and Kevin aren't stealing. They are paying a ransom that happens to belong to someone else. They are choosing their families over £26.5 million. And if you're honest with yourself, you'd have done the same thing. If you're watching this and haven't subscribed yet, this story is about to take a turn that changes everything you think you know. Subscribe and hit the bell. You'll want to be here for what comes next. The families come home. Let that land for a second. After 24 hours of weapons and darkness and silence and terror, the people Chris and Kevin love are released. Chris walks through his front door and sees his mom, alive. Kevin holds Karen. She's breathing. She's here. For one brief, fragile moment, it's over. It isn't over. Northern Bank opens its vault. Empty. £26.5 million. Gone. The alarm that never sounded during the heist screams now, and it screams across the entire United Kingdom. Police descend. Intelligence services mobilize. PSNI MI5. Financial crime investigators from every relevant agency. The Irish Garda across the border. Everyone is looking. This is the largest cash theft in British history, an embarrassment to every institution responsible for preventing it. And what investigators find at the crime scene is almost insulting. Nothing. No forensic evidence that shouldn't be there. No fingerprints from unknown persons. No security footage of masked intruders. Because there were no intruders. Every door was opened by someone who had a key. Every code was entered by someone who knew it. The vault was accessed during business hours by the people whose job it was to access it. The crime scene is clean because, technically, there is no crime scene, just a bank that functioned normally and is now missing all its money. Then, investigators uncover something that changes the scope entirely. The gang didn't grab two random employees off a list. They knew exactly when the vault would hold maximum cash. They knew the delivery schedules, the staffing rotations, which employees had which levels of access, the internal protocols for vault operations. This is not street-level crime, not a group of thugs with weapons and ambition. This was planned by someone with management-level operational knowledge of Northern Bank's internal systems, someone who could read a cash cycle schedule and identify the precise window when the vault would be fullest and the staffing thinnest. The question shifts. It's no longer about who pulled this off. It's about what kind of organization has the intelligence capability, the manpower, the discipline, and the reach to coordinate simultaneous hostage takings across 20 miles, exploit internal bank data, and extract £26.5 million without leaving a single trace. This isn't a gang, this is something else entirely. And if police can't find them through evidence, who will they find instead? The answer arrives like a bomb. Intelligence services, PSNI, MI5, and the Irish Garda converge on a single conclusion. The Northern Bank heist was carried out by the Provisional IRA, the IRA, in December 2004. To understand why that attribution shook two governments, you need to understand the moment. The peace process had been years in the making. The Good Friday Agreement. Sinn Féin, the IRA's political wing, sitting at the negotiating table. The IRA publicly committed to decommissioning weapons, the world watching as one of Europe's longest conflicts inched toward resolution. And then this, a £26.5 million heist by the organization that had sworn to lay down arms. The political earthquake is immediate. Sinn Féin denies involvement. Unionists are furious. Proof, they say, that the peace process is a sham. The British and Irish governments face an impossible choice: pursue justice and risk restarting a war, or preserve the peace and let the biggest heist in the country's history go unanswered. The masterminds are, in the most literal sense, untouchable. Arresting IRA leadership during a peace process could unravel everything Northern Ireland had spent a decade building. The calculus is brutal. Peace for millions is worth more than justice for £26.5 million. But the public doesn't think in political calculus. The public sees an empty vault and demands accountability. Someone has to answer. The pressure on investigators is immense. Solve this. Charge someone. Show the country this crime has consequences. And the investigation circles back, not outward, toward the untouchable architects. Inward, toward the one person who was already inside the building, Chris Ward. His cooperation starts to look different through a certain lens. His detailed account of what happened, too detailed? His knowledge of the bank's operations, too convenient? His composure on the day of the incident, too perfect? His home address in West Belfast, his Celtic FC connections, his background. The qualities that saved his family are being reinterpreted. The performance that kept his mother alive is being re-examined, not as the desperate act of a terrified son, as evidence. Evidence that Chris Ward wasn't just a hostage following orders. Evidence that maybe he was in on it. Chris Ward is arrested, charged with the heist, not as a victim, not as a witness, as a perpetrator. The prosecution's theory: Chris Ward wasn't merely a hostage following instructions under duress. He was a participant, a willing insider who helped plan the operation and played his role on the day. His Celtic FC connections, his West Belfast address, his familiarity with the bank's systems. Circumstantial threads, each thin on its own. Woven together, the prosecution argues they form a rope. Chris maintains what he has maintained from the very first hour. He was kidnapped. His family was held at weapon point. He did what any human being would do to keep them alive. But the prosecution asks a question that cuts to the bone of this entire case. How do you distinguish a man who was forced to rob a bank from a man who agreed to rob a bank and then claimed he was forced? Think about that. Both men do the same thing. Both walk into the building Monday morning. Both open the vault. Both hand over the money. Both say afterward, "I had no choice." The physical actions are identical. The only difference is what was happening inside their heads. And how do you prove what was happening inside someone's head? The prosecution points to Chris's behavior that day, his composure, his calm. He passed colleagues in the corridor. He made small talk. He smiled. He moved through a building full of people, and not a single one noticed anything wrong. He didn't crack. He didn't signal for help. He didn't leave a note in a bathroom. He didn't make one mistake that might have tipped someone off. He was, in the prosecution's eyes, suspiciously perfect. This is the cruelest inversion in the entire story. The thing you admired, his composure, his control, his ability to hold himself together with his family's lives on the line, is now being used to destroy him. The performance that kept his mother alive is the prosecution's best evidence that he was never really a hostage. The better he was at surviving, the guiltier he looked. If he had broken down, if he had trembled, if he had made a mistake that tipped off a coworker, his family might be dead. But he would look more like a victim. He kept his family alive by being perfect, and perfection became proof of guilt. The trial stretched on at Belfast Crown Court. Years of Chris Ward's life consumed. Years of his family, the same family he emptied a vault to protect, living under a cloud of accusation and suspicion. Their faces in newspapers, their names synonymous with the heist. In 2008, the jury returned their verdict. Not guilty. Chris Ward was acquitted. He walked out of that courtroom a free man. But acquittal doesn't fix what's already broken. It doesn't give back the years as a suspect, the years in courtrooms, the years of headlines pairing his name with the word heist. It doesn't undo the arrest, the charge, the public branding. It doesn't repair a reputation shredded in front of the entire country. The jury said not guilty, but Chris Ward had already served his sentence. Not in a cell, in something slower and worse. The systematic dismantling of a life that was already shattered the night those men knocked on his door. And the men who held the weapons, the ones who orchestrated every detail, the masterminds who knew the vault schedules and the staffing rotations and the exact moment to strike, not one of them ever stood in that courtroom. The only person who stood trial for the Northern Bank heist was the person who had no choice. Pull back, wide shot, 2 decades out. The money, £26.5 million. Largely gone forever. Some notes surfaced in criminal markets across Europe. Some were burned when the serial numbers were flagged. Northern Bank had to recall its entire currency and reissue new notes. One of the only times in history a bank has been forced to do that. But the vast majority of the cash dissolved, laundered through shadow networks that know how to make things vanish. The masterminds, never convicted, the political calculus that shielded them in 2004 continued shielding them for years after. The peace process survived. Northern Ireland moved forward. The Northern Bank heist became a footnote, a line item in the cost of peace. Chris Ward, acquitted by a jury but sentenced by the experience. His name will return the Northern Bank heist in every search result for the rest of his life. The night those men knocked on his door did not end when the jury spoke. That night is still going. Kevin McMullen, reflecting years later, said something that collapses this entire case into a single sentence. You don't need to break into the vault. You just need to take someone's wife. Sit with that, because it doesn't just describe how this heist worked. It describes a flaw that no security system on Earth can patch. Every bank in the world upgraded after 2004. Stronger vaults, better cameras, more sophisticated protocols. None of it matters. Kevin McMullen identified the one vulnerability that can never be engineered away. The people who work there love someone. As long as that's true, the vault is already open. You don't need to crack a code. You don't need explosives or hackers or inside men. You just need to find out who works at the bank. then find out who they'd die for. Chris Ward walked into Northern Bank on a Monday morning in December 2004. He chose his family over everything else, over his career, over his reputation, over £26.5 million that didn't belong to him, over his own future. The state called it a crime. A jury said it wasn't. But the question this story leaves behind has nothing to do with verdicts or courtrooms. The question is simpler than that, and harder. What would you have done? If this story hit you the way it hit me, drop a comment. Tell me what you would have done in Chris Ward's position. And if this is the kind of story you come here for, subscribe and hit the bell. The next one goes just as deep. The vault at Northern Bank was repaired. The locks were changed. The codes were reset. The security was rebuilt from the ground up. But Kevin McMullen was right. The real vault was never the one inside the bank. The real vault is the one inside your chest, where you keep the people you love. And that one has no lock at all.